Good morning and welcome back to the madness. It's Sunday morning. Put the coffee on, clean the crud out of your eyes. It's Covers Daily NCAA Tournament Edition. I'm Jason Logan, Cover Senior Industry Analyst, and with me as always is my big dance partner in crime here through the whole NCAA Tournament, Covers lead college hoops analyst, Rohit Ponnaiya. Rohit, good morning.
Good morning. We had a great night yesterday.
Pretty good. Duke game turned out pretty well, and I was just hitting first half unders, second half unders on that Houston game. So
perfect.
That was a good one there. Like we've done each day of the tournament, we're going to break down our best bets for today's Elite Eight games. We only got two, so Rohit, why don't you get us started here Midwest?
Yeah. So this is an early tip-off. We're going just after 2 o'clock p.m. ET. Kansas taking on Miami. Kansas, the only number one seed left in the tournament at this stage, but should be a good one. Miami's really outplayed expectations to an extent. That's kind of the angle I'm looking for in this one. When I look at this Hurricanes team, they entered the tournament. We knew what they could do offensively. Top 20 in the country in field goal percentage, top 10 in the country in turnover rate. Three great guards that can do pretty much everything in the backcourt. But at the same time, they had a lot of cracks defensively. This team was outside the top 300 when it came to opponent field goal percentage. We really thought that defense would be the bane of their existence and kind of send them packing home early. Instead, their defense has been outstanding throughout this tournament. Right now, they're allowing just under 61 points per game on 37.4% field goal shooting in 3 games during the tournament. Coming off a great game against Iowa State, they really shut them down. Obviously, Iowa State, not the greatest offense out there, but they also shut down Auburn and shut down USC, 2 teams that had a big size advantage on them. So that says a lot about how well they've been playing defensively. With that kind of turning around for Miami, I think they have a really good shot at sticking around in this one. Kansas, of course, has an excellent team. Right now, they're the favorites to win the national title. But at the same time, they've had a hard time putting away opponents. We saw that against a banged-up Creighton team. We saw that against Providence when they really shut them down in the first half and then let them back into the game in the second half. Didn't end up covering in that game either. Kansas just hasn't been really getting good play from 2 of their better players. Remy Martin's kind of been carrying that offense off the bench. Big 12 Player of the Year, Ochai Agbaji, hasn't really done anything in the tournament. He's averaging about 10 points per game, shooting about 33% from the field. David McCormick's not doing really anything down low. So with all those advantages, I think the Jacks are going to have a tough time putting away the Hurricanes in this one. So I'm taking the Hurricanes to cover at +6. Moving on over to the over-under, a bit tougher here. If you look at their overall season, I think you'd probably lean towards the over, but I'm leaning towards the under mostly because of how these teams have played recently. Kansas is shooting just 40% from the field in its last 2 games. Now they're taking on a Hurricanes team that's been doing an excellent job of rotating on the perimeter and pressuring opposing ball handlers. But while Kansas has taken a step back offensively, they've been playing really well defensively. They're allowing just 63.8 points per game in their last 8 games. And both these teams have a tendency to play lower scoring games against quality opponents. We've seen that in the past, and I think this one's going to be a little bit tighter than the odds makers think. So I'm leaning towards the under 147.5. For my third pick, I'm actually looking a player prop, kind of what you did yesterday, except instead of taking a player, I'm fading a player. That player is Jayhawks center David McCormick. He's been invisible lately. This is a guy that averaged more than 13 points per game for the Jayhawks last season. He was so important to what they did, but he's been doing pretty much nothing. Against Creighton, he went just 2 for 5 from the floor, had 8 points, just 2 rebounds. He hasn't scored 10 points in 5 of his last 6 games. And it's fair to wonder just how much an ongoing foot injury has been affecting him. That kept him out a few games a couple months ago, and he just really hasn't looked the same since coming back. In theory, he should be a mismatch for Miami's smaller lineup, but the Hurricanes have done such a great job of shutting down top big men like Isaiah Mobley, Jabari Smith, and Walker Kessler during this tourney run. So I don't see him having a good night or good afternoon today, and I'm taking the under 9.5 on McCormick's points total. So those are my 3 picks for that game. We've got the Hurricanes at +6, the under 147.5, and the under on McCormick's points total, which is set at 9.5 and juiced at +100 right now.
All right. Not bad. Not bad. Good even money return there.
Yeah.
Love those under bets. Always joyless under bets.
National tournament, right?
Gotta love it. Gotta love it. All right, I'm going to jump into the east side of the bracket here, and Sean Ronk is breaking down UNC versus St. Pete, so we can go and run down the tail of the tape here. We all know that UNC on paper is much better than the Peacocks in terms of everything. But the one thing that Sean is pointing to here, he's obviously looking to the size advantage for UNC, but also kind of the lineup advantage. Some versatile guys that are big, can stretch this defense, also shoot from outside for the Tar Heels. But they have that anchor in the center, Armando Bacot. Has some great shooters surrounding him. And the Tar Heels shooting especially well here in the tournament. They were 36% on the season from deep, shooting over 37% in the tournament. And now they've totaled 34 triples in those 3 tournament games so far. Now, Purdue came in with kind of a similar setup. However, Bacot is a much bigger and a much tougher problem than Zach Edey was for Purdue. And Zeddy was limited on offense, 11 points, got into foul trouble. Bacot's a much bigger threat inside. And then UNC, like I said, they have some versatile players, guys that are bigger, guys that can step outside and stretch some of the Peacocks forwards and then open up more space for Bacot to operate. So he is laying the lumber here and putting Cinderella to bed. It's midnight for them. UNC -8. It's up to -8.5 right now, so you definitely want to shop around on that one. As for the total for this Elite Eight game, he's taking the over 137. North Carolina 3-6 to the over in their past 2 months, largely on the back of what's been elevated performances on offense. And following Friday's game, the Tar Heels have eclipsed the 70-point plateau in 7 of their last 9 games. St. Peter's, we saw them with a mild 3-point effort in their first 2 games. They shot just 17 and 13 attempts from beyond the arc, but they shot 27 shots from 3-point range against Purdue, nailed only 6 of those. However, UNC's not the stiffest test on defense, especially on the perimeter. So he does see St. Pete's taking more and making more 3-point knocks there. So he does like the over 137. So those are just his 2 bets. He didn't have a prop or a derivative or anything like that. He likes UNC -8, and he's taking the over 137 for this St. Pete's and North Carolina game. Rohit, we can go to the scoreboard if the guys want to pull it up, and we'll take a look at the line moves and any other thoughts on these games that you and I may have. Thanks, fellas. There we go. So we'll start with Miami and Kansas. Depending on where you bet right now, this one opens 6, some places 6.5, move to 6, 5.5, back to 6. Rohit, the way that you're shaping this here, where are you shopping for lines?
Yeah, I'm a little bit surprised, to be honest, that it hasn't really moved at all. I figured a little bit of money would be coming in on Kansas here, the only number 1 seed left in the tournament. Yeah. But the line stayed pretty steady. You're seeing some offshores priced it at 5.5 now, but for the most part, 6 across the board. Total stayed fairly steady as well. A little bit of movement there, open at 148 or 147.5. Yeah. And it's ticked down a tad to 147, but not a whole lot of movement. Doesn't really look like there's a whole lot of sharp movement coming on either side of this one.
Yeah, we're seeing 61% of our covers consensus on Miami, which may be shocking some people. Yeah. And then according to like sportsbooks like BetMGM, they're heavy in bets on the Hurricanes. 69% of spread bets on Miami, 75% of the money on Miami and the points there as well too. So it's one of those things where Kansas, like you said, just has not been convincing.
Yeah, and I think it's interesting that like at this stage in the game, the lines are just so much tighter than maybe they were earlier in the tournament. And we've got yesterday too we had those blue bloods. We could end up having a Final Four with Nova, Duke, UNC, and Kansas, very much so. And it's interesting to see that not that much crazy money came in on those sides over the last couple of days that I thought would shift the lines a little bit, but hasn't really seemed to as of yet.
Yeah, those big teams and the teams that have experienced coaches that have been to the big dance and know how to navigate it, no matter how wild the tournament has been through 3 rounds or 4 rounds, then they always tend to kind of bubble up to the top there. Looking at St. Pete's in North Carolina, this one at 8, we saw some places actually go 8.5, 8, 7.5, back to 8. And now the market consensus is 8.5. Any thoughts on this game?
No, not too much, to be honest. I think at this stage of the game, everyone's kind of looking at St. Peter's. It does give them a little bit more respect than maybe they got, even just one game ago. People aren't just looking at them as a fluke anymore. And I think this is actually a fairly reasonable line when you consider what they went throughout the course of the season and how well UNC is playing now. It seems, it seemed pretty bang on to me at 8. And moving to 8.5 isn't a huge surprise to me by any means.
Yes. So our covers consensus shows that the percentage of picks, 64% of picks on the Peacocks. There's some interesting splits here from sportsbooks like BetMGM that are seeing similar action in terms of bet count, 65% of bet count. However, the bulk of the money, so bigger wagers, coming in on UNC, and those could be those sharp and professional players that are wagering more. 56% actually of the handle on North Carolina. So it could be lining up for a nice Joes versus Pro showdown here. My philosophy for this one is going to be similar to how I navigated the Purdue one. And I said, if North Carolina is going to win this game, they got to come out and they have to put the Peacocks out early on. Purdue didn't do that. Yeah. They couldn't knock them out early on. So for me, I like North Carolina -4.5 here in the first half, especially where they are shooting the 3 exceptionally well. Like they could come out and put some real good distance between this team. But if it's close at the half, you know what? I'm going to start sniffing around the live odds for the Peacocks and see what's the best number I can get. It's really going to come down to if North Carolina can knock this Cinderella team, this feisty Peacocks team out early. So I like UNC -4.5 on the first half spread.
That's a good little play. A lot of these teams, when they come in as like big underdogs, they just need that confidence builder at first to realize that, hey, we're in this. But the first 3 games have been that confidence builder for St. Peter's. But yeah, if UNC just kicks the hell out of them in the early going and just creates that distance, that'll, I think, be a real take the wind out of their sails a little bit. But.
Great. All right. Well, that is it for today's NCAA edition of Covers Daily. We will be back next week for Final Four. And then we've got the championship game on Monday as well, too. But times and programming will be set for those, but keep it locked there. Good luck with your final Elite 8 bets of the day.
Best of